Let's go.
Good evening. Welcome to the Township of Abington Board of Commissioners 2016 final budget meeting of Wednesday, December 23rd, 2015. And may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Sapone.
Here.
Spiegelman.
Here.
Sanchez.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Marcus.
Here.
Kalinowski.
Here.
Shriver.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Placido.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Gillespie. Hecker.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Luker.
Here. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start the meeting, I'd like to mention that Commissioner Carol Gillespie is ill and will not be here this evening. She's recovering in a facility. Which facility is it?
It's Sunrise in Upper Dublin on Susquehanna Road.
Sunrise in Upper Dublin on Susquehanna Road. So with that, we'll move to a presentation that we have at this time, and I was going to ask if Commissioner Peggy Myers would join me, and Commissioner Larry Jones, if you would meet me at the front of the room, please. Thank you. Larry, this is going to be our last formal meeting together. Is that me? Okay. I asked Commissioner Peggy Myers to join me. I know you two are very good friends, and on behalf of all of your colleagues, I'd like to present you, and also the township staff and management, present you with this small gift as a token of our appreciation for your years of service as commissioner in Abington Township. And never one loss for words. I'm not going to say anything right now, and I'm going to turn it right over to Commissioner Myers and then to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, I'm going to keep this very brief because I'd rather say my words privately. I hate goodbyes. But this is not goodbye. And I am going to say something that my father always would say after a couple of drinks. He would say, "You're a man among men." And Larry, you are a man among men. You really are. And I know that your public service will go on because we have in you created an incredible public servant that will continue to serve the residents of Abington and maybe an even bigger audience. We love you, Larry.
Thank you all very much. I'm humbled by the words. I'm humbled to have had the honor to serve Abington Township in Ward 3. I'm specifically humbled by having the opportunity to meet and to work with such wonderful people. Our township staff is phenomenal, I mean, truly phenomenal. The work that they do, the hours that they dedicate, being a commissioner is also a phenomenal experience that takes so much out of the time from family, from friends, from other things. So I would like to leave you by just sharing with you a brief story that sums up my experiences being a commissioner. My daughter and I were visiting with neighbors one day, and we were told that one of our neighbors' husbands passed away. And we went to knock on her door, we sat with her, and she pulled out a picture of her deceased husband who had recently passed. And she read a letter to my daughter and I that she wrote to her husband. And afterwards, we talked for a few minutes, and we left. My daughter stopped, and a few houses away, she looked at me and she said, "See, Dad, I'm a professional. I waited until I got here to cry." And it shows me that Abington is about relationships and families. It's about a way of life. And if we lose that way of life, and we lose our integrity, our honor, and our dignity, we're just a bunch of houses and we have nothing else. So I thank all of you, and I charge you with making sure that our township remains a wonderful place. I will see you all again and continue to do some really exciting public service things, and I thank you very much, and let's have a phenomenal meeting.
At this time, before we get our formal agenda started and open our public hearing, I'd like to call on Police Chief Bill Kelly for an update and a report on a untimely incident that occurred in Abington Township, specifically in my ward, about 3 or 4 hours ago. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief William Kelly.
Mr. President, members of the board, just wanted to advise you of about a very sad incident that occurred today at about 1:50 p.m. when a 73-year-old gentleman who lived on Prospect Avenue in Willow Grove was shot and killed on his front porch of his home. A man knocked on the door and the victim's wife answered it. She told her husband that it was a friend that was at the door. Both the shooter and the person who was shot were lifelong friends. They served in the military together. I'm told it was in Vietnam, and have been friends and colleagues working on projects in Abington Township for many, many years, including the Marine Corps and all of their great activities, including the Toys for Tots program. The victim went out to the porch to speak with this man. When his wife went out to check on him, she found her husband had been shot in the face and was lying on the porch bleeding from the head. The victim's wife also saw the friend, a 72-year-old man who currently lives in Warrington, walking away from the porch to his car and drive off. The victim's wife gave responding police officers the man's name and description of his vehicle. Within minutes, an Abington police officer saw the vehicle operating on Washington Avenue near Prospect Avenue. The officer attempted to stop the vehicle and initially did stop, but then kept pulling away and refusing to stop and comply with officers' directions. The officer instructed the man driving the vehicle to put your hands out the window. The man did not comply and instead started driving the car slowly forward. Other police units started to arrive, and one came up from the opposite end of the street and blocked the car's path of escape. Officers took positions behind cover around the vehicle and continually yelled at the driver, "Show us your hands, show us your hands." The standoff lasted for approximately 5 minutes until the suspect finally pulled out a gun and shot himself while he was seated in the van. He then shot himself a second time inside the vehicle. Immediately, officers rushed in and removed him from the vehicle and began applying life-saving measures until a second alarmist arrived. The suspect was transported to AMH for treatment of his self-inflicted gunshot wounds, and he is currently alive but is in very serious, very critical condition. We especially wanted to brief the board here tonight, not only because, of course, we'd want you to be aware of the latest facts of this major incident that occurred in our township, but because I'm told that one of the news stations irresponsibly has reported that it was reported to them that the police shot the suspect in the shooting. We have investigated this thoroughly and continuously since the shooting occurred. As always in cases of this nature, members of the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office and their investigators have been down here this entire while doing the investigation as well. And I can assure you, I am with 100% certainty, I can tell you that that report is absolutely 100% erroneous. No police officer fired their weapon, although it's miraculous that they didn't under those circumstances. After all of that while, the person holding the gun, them seeing the gun, him moving the gun around, sometimes somewhat in their direction, they held their fire and were directed by their supervisor, who did an outstanding job. And even when the shooter discharged his weapon and shot himself, and ironically, the bullet went out through a window, and so there was glass. You can picture a vehicle window exploding from a bullet like that. That the tendency by those who had weapons trained on him, because he had a gun in his hand, to begin firing. We've seen many cases of that on TV over the years, haven't we? And yet they still maintained total discipline and did not fire. And the same thing, the second shot. Now, I can say this, that I can understand a witness misconstruing what they saw. When they saw the suspect inside the vehicle and they saw the window explode, they thought that that meant that somebody from the outside shot in. However, we know from the trajectory of the window that the projectile that broke the window was coming from inside the vehicle going out, not the other way around. And much of that is on film. So we have not only the word of the people that were there, but also forensic evidence that goes along and backs that up. Finally, I'll say that Deputy Chief John Livingood, because we had a shooting, potential homicide, immediately responded down there as our chief investigator, of course, and was there and actually witnessed the majority of the standoff with the individual, saw it firsthand. So because of the erroneous news report that is out there, and because we all know how fast those things mushroom, decided to get in front of this, and First Assistant District Attorney Kevin Steele is on his way down here to get briefed and then to present information to the media. It probably will be a press conference. It'll probably be right here at this location, either while this meeting is going on or shortly thereafter. And because of that, I just wanted to make sure that all of you knew the entire background on the situation and the circumstances that went on here today, and that as confident as I can be. And there's times this early on in an investigation when I have to tell you it's under investigation, I can't give you an answer yet. That happens sometimes. And when that happens, that's exactly what I tell you. But I'm telling you, as confident as I can be of anything, as I'm sitting here, I can tell you that no officer discharged their weapon. And again, although if they had, they would have been within their rights to do so. But they did not, because they felt that the risk wasn't absolutely imminent, and so they held their fire, and it was the individual that shot himself. Thank you for your consideration, allowing me to explain that to the board and the public, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chief Kelly. So at this time, we'll move on with our formal business, and I'll call on Township Manager Michael LaFever for the budget statement.
Thank you, President Luker. At this point in the budget process, I'm sure each member of the board is fully informed on the status of the 2016 budget, but for the benefit of any residents in the audience or anyone watching at home of a replay of this meeting, I'll just provide a brief summary of where we are. When the budget was first proposed last month, we were faced with a significant funding imbalance of over $1.1 million, which would have required a $49 tax increase for the average household assessed at $150,000. The board felt the level of tax increase was too severe and directed it to be reduced through a cut of about $330,000 of our proposed expenditures. It was initially thought we could eliminate that amount of expenditures through the attrition process with certain personnel that will be retiring from employment. But that course of action would have impacted just two departments severely, the police department and our library. So after taking public comment, the board directed staff to revisit the budget, see if they could more equitably distribute those cuts across the budget, and the department heads have done so. So the budget before you this evening is in the amount of $37,472,623. It represents an increase in spending of $825,844 over the current year, or 2.6%. The budget calls for a $35 tax increase for the average household assessed at $150,000, or a millage increase of 0.2319. I'm happy to answer any questions of the ordinance that the board raises. Thank you, President Luker.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. LaFever. Okay. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for ordinance number 2105, establishing 2016 tax millage and budget appropriation for various township funds as attached to the agenda and circulated to the public. At this time, I'd like to call on comments from commissioners. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. President Luker, at the proper time, I would like to offer an alternative motion, very similar to the one that I did at the preliminary budget meeting, and that's probably under item B.
Okay, anything else? No. Okay, any other comments from commissioners? Any from, okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner Zappone.
Just a couple of facts I need to get straightened out. So when we were going through the budget process, we got it down to $700,000. We were in the hole, right? Now, we just came into $332,000. Now, does that come off of the $700,000?
The Commissioner Zappone is referring to permit fees we received from Springfield Mall for the renovation of 2 floors of the former Sears building, which resulted in receiving...
Willow Grove Mall.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The Willow Grove, the old habits. The Willow Grove Mall, resulting in actually a gross expenditure of approximately $17 million of improvements to that facility. The net result for the township, we did receive $332,000 in building permit fees, unexpected. The result of that amount will increase the year-end surplus. We know we're going to finish the year in the black. I don't have an exact number or even a projected number at this point, but whatever the surplus that is, it'll be increased by a corresponding amount of $332,000. That money has not been directed towards the 2016 budget. It'll be included as part of the 2015 budget and reflected in our year-end balance.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Klein, Vice President Klein.
Mike, that is an unanticipated permit fee that we brought in. There's no guarantee that we can pick up a fee of that amount next year.
No, we have no expectations of receiving a permit fee of that size.
So even if it was a fee that we get towards the end of this year, it's not something we would necessarily budget in part of code enforcement fee revenue.
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners? Any from staff? Any from the public? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing. And at this time, I'd like to ask Vice President Stephen Klein, Chairman of the Finance Committee, to read the motion as listed on the agenda.
Mr. President, may I
President.
make my motion first? Would that be acceptable?
I was going to read the
I would
motion.
rather we go with the agenda and read the motion that's on the...
Will you advise me at the time before the vote is taken when I can offer my motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2105, establishing tax and levy for appropriations for various funds for the fiscal year 2016. Tax rate for general purposes, 2.273 mils. Tax rate for fire purposes, 0.72 mils. Tax rate for debt service purposes, 0.52 mils. Tax rate for parks and recreation, 0.25 mils. Tax rate for library purposes, 0.43 mils. tax rate for ambulance service purposes, .01 mils, for a total millage of 4.203 mils. Summary of appropriations and receipts for the following funds: general, $37,472,623. Sewer fund, $9,130,956. Refuse, $5,807,416. Highway aid fund, $1,431,178. Workers' compensation fund, $965,030. Retiree health cost fund, $1,348,700. Tuition reimbursement fund, $15,000, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. It has been seconded? Okay.
Take another motion.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion from Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. Before I actually make the motion, I just would like to make a couple of statements. The budget that's proposed tonight not only increases property taxes, but it also reduces services. And I think it's very important and be very transparent of us for the residents to know that. The bulk of these reduced services will be the elimination of 2 street police officers. This is inconceivable to me. Although I know it's going to happen, I am making this motion because for the first time in my years, and that's not as a commissioner, that's as a resident that I can remember back, this is going to happen. We are increasing taxes and reducing services. I see this as the township going backwards, and someday soon the residents will see that this is not the community that they moved into. Police Chief Kelly told us about a police incident that happened today, this afternoon. I asked for some numbers. In a 1/2-hour period in our police department today, the situation the chief spoke of happened at 132 at Washington Lane, not Washington Avenue. There was a pole down which took up 4 police officers and a sergeant. We have the incident that was spoken of, and that was between 1:42, the beginnings of that, and 1:52 p.m. That took up a minimum of 7 police officers and 1 lieutenant, and I don't even know how many sergeants. There was at 2:06 p.m., there was an accident at Eastern Road, and at 2:08 p.m., there was an accident at Washington and Susquehanna, not the one that I mentioned first. So in a 1/2-hour period, our entire police department was called out, and we had to get services from surrounding police departments, and we had to bring in people that were off. It is for that reason that I am making this motion, because we cannot, in this time in our country and this time in our township, we cannot reduce police services. I make this motion with full knowledge of the fund balance policy, which I believe we seriously need to revisit because it is not serving all of the residents of this township. We keep talking about the future and saving for the future, but I don't hear us talking about the here and now. I'm concerned, I know some of you are concerned about the here and now. So, with all that being said, I would like to make a motion to increase our general tax rate by $35 to the average household and to fill the balance of the budget, approximately $330,000, by taking that money out of fund balance and/or the surplus for 2015, which we know has just been increased by $330,000, as Commissioner Zappone has brought up, in permit fees. And I ask every single one of you to write down this date so you will remember the night that Abington Township went backwards instead of forward. And I so move.
Did you get a second on that motion?
Second.
All right, you've heard the second motion as submitted by Commissioner Myers. Are there any other motions? Any other comments? So I move that we vote on the motion that's on the floor. Let's see, which would be the original motion.
Excuse me, President Luke.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask Commissioner Myers a quick question?
Go ahead.
With that money coming from the fund balance, is there going to be any directive to the department heads to then go ahead and find cuts, possibly pay back that money?
Absolutely, and I'm sorry that I didn't mention that, and as I did mention it at the preliminary budget meeting, that this would allow the department heads much more time to make these decisions for next year.
Are we assuming it's going to be that same amount, the gap difference there, right? 100% of the fund balance that we might happen to take?
I'm sure it won't be that same amount, but certainly with that much time to plan and make arrangements, that whatever the amount is, it could be fulfilled. I understand we can't keep taking from fund balance, and I don't want anyone here to think that I don't get that, or anyone who supports this doesn't understand that. But for 2015 going into 2016, it is the right thing to do.
Okay?
Yeah, just, is there, again, I'm sorry to hog the mic. Do you have a timeline when you were thinking about that to happen, or is that just something to be worked out?
Commissioner, I think that we could leave that up to administration.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Vice President Klein.
Manager LaFever, the two police officers, I think, that are being held out are currently not filled. Am I right in that?
That is correct.
And that I think the memo that we received from, I guess it was you on the proposed cuts, that the police department is still currently working on other options that would maintain keeping or hiring those officers, which wouldn't have happened, if I remember correctly in our conversations, not until sometime in May or June anyhow, based on the exams.
That's also correct. There's two current vacancies in the patrol ranks of the police department, and initially it was projected we wouldn't have filled those positions till early spring at the earliest. The police chief has asked for the opportunity in early 2016 to revisit his budget to see if there's other efficiencies that might be attained to offset the reduction of those two positions. So at this point, although $161,000 has been taken from the police department budget in personnel, there may be the opportunity to reallocate that to another line item within the budget. So the budget has been reduced by that corresponding amount, but at this point, it's not definite that it will be, those positions will not be filled. We'll have to give the command staff the opportunity to look at the budget and see if other opportunities present themselves.
So we're not actually talking about laying off any police officers?
Absolutely not.
At this point, we're just talking about not hiring or not filling those two positions, and with the potential that those positions could be reinstated, or at least one of them, depending on how the command staff and Chief Kelly's department works on their budget over the next few months.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Good point. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, Commissioner Zappone.
Just want to ask Commissioner Myers a question. Did you say a $35 tax increase or
Yes.
or 30?
35.
30, okay.
Because that would make the balance to close the budget $330,000.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we're ready to vote then on the original motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go with a show of hands for the original motion. All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in favor.
Okay. So there would be no need to vote on the second motion?
That's correct.
All right.
I'd like to request that we do vote on the second motion.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the second motion as presented by Commissioner Myers, vote by a show of hands. All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that concludes
Oh, wait.
FB1. I'm sorry.
We have one non-vote, and in order for them to
We have one?
Oppose.
oppose to
Okay.
both motions.
Oppose a tax increase. Dennis Zappone opposes a tax increase.
Okay. So you oppose both the first and the second motion?
Absolutely. No tax increase, no service cuts. That's
Does
what
you
I'm
have
voting.
that?
Yes, I have it.
All right. So we'll move to FB2, motion to approve the 2016 Capital Improvement Program, includes street overlay program as listed in the attached documents from the following funding sources. The general fund transfer, use of capital fund balance, $684,000. Transfer from fire, $85,000. 2015 in lieu of, $495,000. Reallocated funds, $69,000, for a total of $1,333,000. Sewer operation retained earnings, $872,000. Sewer capital retained earnings, $1,150,000. Refuse retained earnings, $534,000, for a total of $3,889,000. And I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, by show of hands.
All in favor?
Okay, all in favor? Okay. That concludes the final 2016 budget agenda. So at this time, I'll close the hearing and ask for any comments from the general public first. Name and address, please.
Richard Gaglianese, 1074 Beverly Road. I really just want to take a minute and thank Larry Jones for his service to our community. Larry's done a stand-up job. He's a class act, and sorry that he wasn't able to achieve the success in the second election. But Larry, thank you for your service. I'm glad to have been involved with you, and I'm glad that you were able to serve your community. And I know how tough it is for everyone here to serve their community in terms of time and energy and being away from their families and their other obligations. So thank you again for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Sir, name and address, please.
Raymond Bell, 2076 Parkview Avenue. I just want to, and while I'm cognizant that the budget has been approved, I want to issue a caution because I do agree with Commissioner Myers in her concern about the reduction or the not being able to continue hiring people in the police department. Aside from the tragedy that happened in Abington today, this country and this area is changing. And it's not changing favorably, and, you know, this country is indeed in trouble as well. You know, and the budget was approved, but I would suggest that the 2016 budget process continue now by asking yourselves and departments what was done right, what was done wrong, and instead of looking at what if, we need to look at why not. More rigid inspection and needs-based expense controls must be continued, but more aggressively and more often, including any and all future contracts plus purchases across the board. This is 2016 coming. Reduction of staff and benefits is inevitable unless revenues increase. If revenues don't increase, we're going to be back again in another year to keep saying the same thing. It's very difficult when you have people that provide service to the township and you have to cut salaries and people. But progress is being made, but mistakes were made and opportunities may have been lost. But becoming better just isn't your responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility. And I do oppose any stoppage of hiring police officers in the future, because maybe everyone needs to focus on what they do have versus what they don't have. And we have an absolute good, solid police department. Reducing it is not the answer. And I believe that if you continue to reduce it, and we keep seeing what's going on television and in the newspaper, you're going to have more applications for gun permits in this township as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Nathan? Name and address, please.
Nathan Vasserman, 130 Church Road. Larry, I just wanted to thank you. I'll let everyone else say what a great guy you are, but specifically, I wanted to thank you for the time you put in the Huntington Valley Shopping Center. You know, my wife and kids still go to the Corner Cafe for breakfast while we can, and we went to, I know you had several meetings about it, and I went to at least some of them, and we were really pleased with the way you handled it. You didn't try to pander or promise, over-deliver promises like some other people might have. So just thank you for your work on that, and just everything else you did as a commissioner. And, I mean, you know where we are, so keep in touch.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? If there are none, I'll start with closing comments from commissioners. Commissioner Bowman.
Just Merry Christmas to all, and we'll see you next year.
Commissioner DiPlacido.
Same thing. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Commissioner Farron.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Commissioner Hecker.
Broken record.
Commissioner Jones.
Broken record with the addition of Happy Kwanzaa, and also looking forward to some really fantastic things from a few community organizations in Abington Township next year. We'll keep you posted.
Commissioner Klein.
Thank you. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. And Larry, it was truly a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zapone.
Merry Christmas.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
To all celebrating, Merry Christmas, very Happy New Year, and best wishes to you, and thank you for your service, Commissioner Jones. Peace to all.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Echoing happy holidays to all. Good night.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to everyone, and of course, a Happy New Year. And I ask everyone to remember in the new year that what makes Abington really special and unique are our services.
Thank you. Commissioner Markman.
Happy holidays, and thanks, Larry, for doing a good job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kalinowski.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy Holidays. And Larry, thanks for being a friend, and getting to know you through this process was great. The other thing I would have to say is before I leave here, the two gentlemen that were involved in that shooting today were both veterans. They were both friends of mine. I knew them both very well. But foremost, they were veterans, and I pray for both of them and their families. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schreiber.
Yeah, I want to wish everybody happy holidays. I also want to remind everybody that the holidays are not always happy for everybody. It's often a hard time for people, and so just be nice to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And in closing, I'd like to echo the comments made by Commissioner Kalinowski. I know both of those gentlemen very well, and my prayers go out to both them and their families. But I'd like to take this opportunity to give a closing commentary to Commissioner Jones. You have been a class act since you set foot on this podium. Always the perfect gentleman. You've represented your Ward 3 constituents with pride and dignity. You were never afraid or reluctant to give your opinion on your thoughts or your recommendations on issues confronting not only your ward, but the entire township. You will be sorely missed as you were a quintessential statesman, often using words causing many of us to reach for a dictionary. What did he say? What's that word? Never one to engage in political theater. You viewed your decisions as those that were made in the best business and financial sense and contributed to the health, safety, and welfare of whomever was at the topic of discussion. I lastly want to thank your wife and your children for the sacrifices they made over the years. I and we all wish you well. Take care of yourself and best of luck in your professional career, as I am not so sure we have seen the last of you politically. Larry, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and I thank you all for attending this evening.
So moved.
Thank you.
1 o'clock, set your alarm. 1 o'clock.